A local motel will need to make changes to keep its license. Barnstable wins a grant from the Environmental Protection Agency to deal with stormwater runoff, and the Barnstable Police Department assists with a record-breaking drug bust. These stories on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Tuesday, January 20th, 2015. I'm Sarah Mantle. The Board of Health takes the management of a local hotel to task as the result of ongoing health violations. Craigville Motel was the subject of a show cause hearing before the board last week. Multiple violations, including unapproved cooking devices in rooms and missing smoke alarms, dotted the list of concerns. The Board of Health is giving management 90 days to make repairs, and random inspections will be made during that time. Craigville Motel management will be back before the Board of Health on April 7th. The Environmental Protection Agency selects Hyannis to receive a grant that will help keep the harbor clean. DPW Director Dan Santos says the grant will pay for work on the stormwater system on Pleasant Street near the Maritime Museum.
What happens is stormwater, for decades and decades, has been collected all the way up near the Kmart Plaza. I mean, the stormwater system runs collecting runoff from rainwater on the roads and parking lots and all kinds of things, and moves its way underground through a series of pipes and catch basins and whatnot down and just deposited into the harbor. And it's not a good thing to have this, and but they're everywhere, these kind of systems, and little by little we try to attack them and put some treatment on them. So the EPA put out a kind of an invitation to communities on the Cape to compete for this grant money, and you could apply, and we did, and there were a number of communities that applied on the Cape, and we made the first cut, and the final cut was between Chatham and Barnstable, and it turns out they have enough money to do both projects, so both communities have been awarded. And the beauty of this is not just a grant, it's the EPA will actually design and construct the solution.
Santos says officials with the Environmental Protection Agency have not yet determined the best solution to the problem.
They're looking at using some new technologies, some kind of treatment technologies, so that we can't stop the water from moving. So what we're going to do is put some pre-treatment on it, so that what goes into the harbor is treated and not detrimental to the harbor itself. So this was just announced a week ago, so there'll be, I'm sure, a number of months of planning and getting input from the community and a design process, and ultimately some kind of construction project. We'll be working very closely with growth management because we have the various legacy trails and pathways that go through this area.
Santos says the Environmental Protection Agency hopes to make the project educational as well, highlighting its efforts to deal with stormwater runoff. Barnstable police play an important role in the Cape's largest drug bust involving crystal meth. Barnstable This Morning host Sarah Colvin talked about the bust with Police Chief Paul McDonald.
Chief, wanted to talk about a recent drug arrest. Tell me a little bit about this particular search warrant that was executed out of town.
Last week on the 15th, we executed two search warrants, one in Wareham and one in Pocasset. This is part of an ongoing drug investigation which started last year. It started with the first search warrant being executed on David Landry in Sandwich on September 12th. He's currently being held on $150,000 cash bail. But once we executed that search warrants, and then we got additional information, we found out that he was the ringleader of a major drug investigation. Since that search warrant, we have then executed 4 additional search warrants, all regarding him and several other individuals. And then last week we executed one, and we recovered 2 kilos of crystal methamphetamine. That's quite an amount of drugs, especially here down the Cape. And I've been here 34 years. That's the most I've ever known that has been recovered. And that's a narcotic that we rarely see here on Cape. It has a wholesale value of approximately $40,000 and a street value of over $200,000. And that 2 kilos equates out to 2,200 grams. So that could have done some serious damage here in the Cape.
Wow, that really is a significant amount of drugs. And you're right, Chief, we really don't hear a lot about crystal meth here on the Cape. Were there concerns about that? Obviously, there were concerns about that coming into our town. Have we heard any reports or any incidents regarding the trade of crystal meth here in Barnstable, aside from this giant bust?
Well, if you remember last summer, there was a small quantity of crystal meth down on Main Street. It actually was being distributed among some homeless individuals. We then initiated an investigation, and we discovered that crystal meth lab down in Falmouth, and we executed a search warrant down there with Falmouth PD, and we recovered an amount of crystal meth. But we actually found where they were manufacturing. And of course, crystal meth is a manufactured narcotic and extremely dangerous. This was the finished product, the byproduct. It was all packaged and it was all ready to go. But this is something, a narcotic that we have not seen too much up in the Northeast. It's very popular out in the Midwest and out in the West, but it is extremely addictive. This is one of those drugs. We're concerned about heroin and cocaine and the other opiates, but crystal meth is extremely addictive.
Indeed, and as are all the other drugs, extremely damaging. From what I've read about crystal meth, as you said, number one, very, very addictive, and number two, it's extremely damaging to a person's body and health. We talk about the bust of the lab in Falmouth. Any idea as to where this large quantity of crystal meth came from, Chief?
We don't. We do not think that this batch was associated with what we did in Falmouth, because the quantity of it, that lab that we took down in Falmouth, did not have the ability to produce this amount. We're assuming that was probably brought in or trucked in or shipped in somewhere from the Midwest. So but it's gone. It's off the street. Of course, we are trying to get additional information. Once we executed the search warrants, we're looking for anything and everything that pertains to distribution of narcotics. So we're looking for all the paperwork. That's how a lot of these cases began. We first did that case with Landry. That one search warrant mushroomed into a total of 5 different search warrants, and we're looking at perhaps doing 2 more search warrants before this case is finally wrapped up. And again, a lot of the evidence we get is once we execute those search warrants. So we're still working on it.
Indeed. So what kind of charges come along with this particular bust, Chief, in finding such a large amount of crystal meth?
Right now, he's being held on $50,000 cash bail, and he's being held on trafficking of a Class A substance, and that could carry up to 20 years, depending on what his record is and how many other times he has been arrested. There was no firearms involved. There was no violence involved. So he could be possibly facing up to 20 years in prison.
Wow.
But that's depending on his record.
Absolutely. So we'll thank you for that update, Chief. Anything else in terms of police action here over the past week? I know kind of cold weather, slippery road conditions, but as we've talked about in the past, the cold weather really kind of keeps the criminals inside.
It does. The cold weather does keep, probably one of the great criminal deterrents that we have is cold weather. However, the icy conditions, the road conditions, particularly in the mornings, there was a couple of mornings in the last couple of weeks where we've had up to 12 accidents. Relatively minor in nature, but you can't see the black ice on the roadways. The rain from the day before, or the dew was still on the roads. Freezes overnight because of black ice, and people are sliding all over the place. During the winter time, people just have to adjust their driving habits. Drive a little bit slowly, drive a little bit carefully, and everybody will get through this. But unfortunately, we're all late for work and we're all in a hurry. I almost missed a phone call today.
Chief, in terms of the heroin issue, obviously, we're hearing in neighboring Yarmouth the numbers of overdoses continue. Are we still seeing relatively large amounts of overdoses here in town? How has that been over the last couple of weeks?
This is the 20th of January. As of the 20th of January, we've had 13 confirmed drug overdoses with 1 fatality. So, yes, it is still continuing on. If you equate that out for a full year, it comes out to approximately 130 drug overdoses. Last year, we had 81. So, hopefully we'll start seeing it subside with their enforcement action. There's the education, there's the treatment, there's the prevention, there's the interdiction. Our job, law enforcement, the courts, our responsibility is the interdiction of the narcotics and get it off the street and stop the poison from coming into our town.
And you can find Police Chief Paul McDonald on Barnstable This Morning every Tuesday, where he gives us the latest from the Barnstable Police Department. Tonight, the Conservation Commission meets at 7:30 in the Town Hall hearing room. You can find details and the agenda for the meeting on the town's website. That web address is town.barnstable.ma.us. We'll be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we will chat with the Executive Director of the Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board, David Augustino. We'll also talk with Cape Cod Healthcare's Cheryl Bartlett, who was recently appointed the Executive Director of the organization's Cape Cod Regional Substance Abuse Prevention Initiative. Plus, we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.